You want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered? Be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real as Roland Martin Unfiltered. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered daily digital show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. You can make this possible. Folks, Pennsylvania lawmaker Malcolm Kenyatta announced yesterday he is running for the United States Senate in Pennsylvania. Pat Toomy earlier announced he was not going to be seeking re-election. A lot of folks are running for this seat. The lieutenant governor of the state has already announced it. This is one of the critical seats that Democrats are targeting in 2022, hoping to expand their majority. This was a video that Kenyatta put out. He is an openly gay man, and he also recognizes that's going to be an issue, but he says, bottom line is, that is the diverse state that he believes Pennsylvania is. Check this video out.
Government hasn't worked for working families like mine. I know what it's like to see an eviction notice, to work a minimum wage job. My first one was at the age of 12, working to support my family. My dad was a social worker. My mom was a home health care aide. No matter how hard they worked, they struggled to make ends meet for me and my siblings. And unfortunately, my story isn't that unique. It's familiar to Pennsylvanians all across the Commonwealth. Working families from Philly to Erie, from Scranton to Johnstown, from Bethlehem to Uniontown are resilient and leaning on one another. But Pennsylvania and America are at a crossroads. After 4 years of division and just over a month since a failed coup at the United States Capitol, we face a question of who we want to be as a country. But we also face a recognition what's been broken has been broken for more than 4 years. We have to answer the question at the heart of every campaign. Who should government work for? We need policies that actually speak to working families and lift them up. We have to choose. Are we going to go down the path of darkness? Or are we ready to bring a new day to Pennsylvania? A new day that demands we acknowledge how out of reach the American promise has been for too many of us. A new day where we confront head-on challenges in healthcare, in climate, in gun violence, and poverty. A new day where we don't just talk about justice, but we make it real in our lifetime. A new day where no matter who you are, who you love, how you worship, you get a fair shot. It's time for a new day, Pennsylvania. I'm Malcolm Kenyatta, and I'm running for the United States Senate.
Question Kenyatta's going to have to face in Pennsylvania, Kelly, is Pennsylvania liberal enough not only to elect an openly gay black man? Remember, Democrats often say once you get outside of Pittsburgh and Philadelphia, Pennsylvania is Alabama.
I'm sorry, Roland, I'm having a hard time hearing you, but I did hear the question. I don't see why we, or not we, but Pennsylvania as a state cannot vote a black gay man into the Senate. If we as black people have constantly and consistently voted white, straight men into office to represent our needs, I don't see why white people can't do the same when it comes to this black gay man. It's not like his issues are any different than a heterosexual person's. It's not like he came from a different planet. He is from Pennsylvania. He represents Pennsylvania. My understanding is very well in state representation. I don't see why he can't carry on into national representation of the state to do the same thing. Frankly, we have pushed across the country for these red states or historically red states to turn blue. Why? Because the stakes have never been higher. It's not just about voting Trump out of office. It's about voting racism out of office. It's about voting xenophobia out of office. It's about voting elitism out of office. And the Democrats are the vessel for that message. And whoever carries that message needs to be in that seat. So in my view, Kenyatta I don't see why he shouldn't be in that seat. I just don't.
The issue you're dealing with, Michael, isn't the fact that the issue is not that he's gay, issue that he's black, issue that he's liberal, is that he's gay, black, liberal. We're talking about Pennsylvania. We're talking about and again, I'm telling you, look, when you talk about that state, you talk about in terms of how folks there vote. Again, Democrats have always had sort of these moderate, middle of the road. So the question is then going to be, what kind of candidate comes out? The Republicans are first of all going to call anybody liberal. Hell, they call Joe Biden a socialist when he ran in Pennsylvania. What Democrats are, so let's just be real. Let's just be real clear, okay? In terms of what you're dealing with here. But these are the issues that are going to come up. He has been a strong voice in the Pennsylvania legislature, but we're dealing with, again, let me say it again, Democrat consultants will tell you, is Pittsburgh and Philly in the suburbs, and the rest of the state is Alabama.
Yeah.
Alabama.
Right. Well, you know, Malcolm X used to say, anytime you're south of the Canadian border, you're in the South. So living in Michigan, you know, I totally understand that. What he'll have to do, I've seen him on MSNBC a number of times. He's very dynamic. I'm not sure who else is going to be running. We'll have to see how everything matches up. But what he will definitely have to do is build a multiracial coalition focusing on the issues, focusing on the how policies, whether we deal with COVID relief, whether we deal with supporting a living wage. Hopefully it'll pass by the time this election happens. Hopefully $15 an hour pass by the time this election happens, but we don't know. But showing how policies impact people across racial, ethnic, gender lines, what have you, to build that coalition to win as U.S. senator. So we'll see how this matches up. We'll see how this turns out. But good luck to him, though. But he is dynamic. I've seen. I could tell he's passionate. Also, it seems like he has a real commitment to his constituents and to trying to make their lives better.
The thing that people have to understand, Rob, that you're going to see, Democrats are going to be extremely cautious. They're going to be looking for, frankly, moderate candidates. When we start talking about the places that are going to be in competition in 2022 for the United States Senate, trying to find a candidate to run against Senator Marco Rubio in Florida. Significant Cuban vote, Venezuelan vote. Democrats probably are going to say, hey, do you nominate somebody who also is Latino to counter that with for Senator Marco Rubio? You're trying to replace Burr, who's not going to run for re-election in North Carolina. Same thing. You're dealing with a state where typically you're going to have a moderate Dem, a maybe center-right Dem who's running. You're dealing with that as well. Now you talk about Pennsylvania as well. And then, of course, you got Johnson in Wisconsin. Wisconsin, in many ways, is just like Pennsylvania. You're dealing with Midwestern white folks who are far more conservative than they normally are. The same state that re-elected Scott Walker there as we had 2 terms. So the question really is, for the left, okay, is how do they run candidates in these states to win the primary and to win the general? Will the DSCC put their thumb on the scale again and pick candidates? Because you got to remember, in Tennessee, they chose white male, veteran, raised a lot of money. The sister raised $8,200 and beat him in the primary.
Yeah. So
and then got crushed in the general.
Yeah. So I have a different take on this. I think like how liberals should talk about issues is they should talk about issues and frame them that way, and be proud of how they frame them and come from a point of view of passion, just like Michael said. I think it was Lyndon Johnson that said, what convinces is conviction. People have to believe what you're saying. So you can be moderate on some things, but everything in moderation, even moderation, you can't be moderate on everything. You have to have some convictions for what you believe. So I don't buy into this belief that you have to be one or the other. I don't even know what they mean when they say it has to be a moderate candidate. It is a candidate that can communicate, that can build a multi-coalition, that knows how to bring people together. And no matter what their ideology is, if they have some core convictions and they can move people, you have a chance at winning. But I think you have no chance in states like this, specifically in an off year when you have a Democrat in office. Traditionally, if you go with history, almost always the opposite party in power wins. You know Fox News is going to find a reason to get people upset. They're going to be energized. You need to make sure that your people are energized too. And I don't think it always takes to say somebody.
Rob,
Yep. Go ahead.
No, but Rob, but it's been real. Rob, you're in Ohio, okay? That conversation is happening right now. That conversation is happening. You have Nina Turner, who is running, obviously, for Congresswoman Marsha Fudge's seat. But the question is, what kind of candidate are Democrats going to put up in Ohio? Is it going to be a strong progressive, a strong liberal, or is it going to be, frankly, a white moderate?
He's not a moderate. I mean, like Sherrod Brown is in Ohio. He is not a moderate.
Right.
Progressive populist. So you can do it.
Wait. Sherrod, hold on, no. Remember, Sherrod Brown has been reelected. They put up other folk. They have not been able to win that second seat.
Yeah, I know. I was running statewide. I have a lot of experience in that. Look, I won 2 million votes, actually, third most in history. Trump was able to bring out more people than we've ever seen. So he drove. What the right did is they figured out a strategy to focus and bring out the people. What we can't do is just say, let's come up with no message and don't worry about focusing on our people. We got to figure out how we motivate our people. And what I think we did wrong in Ohio, and I can say this, I got 2.5. I outraised my opponent, but I had to depend upon a greater structure that wasn't going to invest in people. They didn't make the type of investments that Stacey Abrams made. They weren't intentional about going after young people. They weren't intentional about making sure we had a real effort to make sure we were courting black folks. And you see less voters. If you look at how Joe Biden did in the state versus how I did, percentage-wise, he did worse. So like there was no infrastructure put into that or long-term play. So that has to be a part of your strategy too. And you can't just say, okay, what moderate?
Right. Well, that was going to be one of my points, Rob. Like, hold on.
Hold on, Kelly, hold on. But let's be clear. One of the reasons you did not have the infrastructure put in place in Ohio because Hillary Clinton lost to Trump by 450,000 votes in 2016. Democrats said, look, if she had lost by maybe 100,000, okay, we can compete 4 years later. Their deal was like, hey, we're not putting the money in. Now the issue that you're raising, and Kelly and Michael, you can speak to this, is going to be that issue is, do you give up on it? Is a Senate seat, how does that change? Rob Portman is not running. Is it going to be a Congressman Tim Ryan? Who's going to be the nominee? The reality is this here. I would hope what Democrats have learned from Georgia is that you can't just completely write something off. Yes, you have to have dynamic candidates, but you have to have a strong infrastructure, and you don't start 6 to 9 months before the election. Right now, Democrats should be focused on building coalitions and building in Ohio today, Wisconsin today, Pennsylvania today, North Carolina today. Otherwise, you're trying to play catch up. Kelly, go ahead, then Michael.
That was a part of my point, Roland, especially if we're going to use what Stacey Abrams did in Georgia as a model for future campaigning throughout the country. A large reason why that model was so successful is because there was blatant voter suppression in Georgia to begin with. Now, when you say the anecdote of, how
same as Pennsylvania, the same.
Same as Ohio. A million people were taken off of the rolls.
That's exactly my point, Roland. That's what I'm saying. When you're talking about your anecdote about how you take Philly and Pittsburgh and surrounding suburbs out, you get Alabama. Well, Alabama is a state that is suffering from voter suppression. So we need to tackle that. And whatever candidate is willing to tackle that, whatever Democratic apparatus, what have you, is willing to tackle that, that's how we're going to turn Pennsylvania blue, not just for presidential elections, not just every 4 years, but for real. And that's how it's going to have to be in Ohio and every state that's red. Because like I was saying earlier in your program regarding Texas and them in this freeze, a lot of their constituents are Democrats. And the reason why that state is red is because of voter suppression as well. So we need a candidate anywhere who will tackle that and has a model to tackle that. And also, we also need to stop putting gay people in a monolith as far as they're going to be liberal, they're going to be this, that, and third. Because Buttigieg was not all that liberal. He was quite moderate. So we need to take into consideration that maybe Kenyatta won't be as liberal as we think. You know, just because he is a minority of the minority does not necessarily mean he thinks that way. So do your research.
No, Kelly, have you actually, Kenyatta's a liberal.
I understand
okay,
that.
Okay, if you act, well, no, we're not assuming he's a liberal. He is a liberal. The point that I'm making, which is the point that we're dealing with, that Pennsylvania, right now, Republicans control the legislature in Pennsylvania. So right now, they're trying to change the law to boot out, literally, they're trying to change the law in Pennsylvania. And matter of fact, I reached out to Kenyatta to get him on the show to discuss this, where they want to go from judges being elected statewide to them elected via district model so they can control the judges, control the state Supreme Court. The point I'm still making is the battle in Pennsylvania is going to be what type of candidate emerges out of the primary. And the Democrats have historically elected folks like Casey, Senator Casey, who is deemed a moderate center, maybe center-right candidate to appeal to non-Democratic voters, to appeal to independent voters. What I'm saying is that's real, that he is going to have to deal with that, Michael. If I'm Kenyatta, what I'm doing is I'm focusing on driving an agenda to pull his voters out, because you got to win the primary first. But Democrats are going to be dealing with this very issue. Is this candidate too liberal? Is this candidate the right mix to appeal to independents, all these other people? But what Democrats had better learn from the race in Maine, the race in Iowa, and Amy McGrath in Kentucky is that if you have a candidate, Michael, that can't excite the voters, it don't matter if they liberal.
That's all I'm saying.
It don't matter if they moderate. It don't matter if they conservative. Your ass is going to lose. And you can raise $50 million like Amy McGrath, and you can be left with $30 million, and you got blown out.
Yep. Yeah, I agree with that, because you're going to have somebody who can galvanize support, get people to turn out, and energize people. Okay, energize people, and we have to also understand. See, this is going to be a off-year election. It's going to be a midterm election. So typically, in midterm elections, the turnout is less than a presidential election. So you have to have somebody who can energize the base, and then they have to take a page from Stacey Abrams and turn out those disaffected voters. Turn out those voters who normally don't vote, target the youth, but deal with the policies and show directly how policies will directly impact people's lives and make their lives better. But yeah, you're right about that. You got to energize.
I'm gonna tell you right now, what Kenyatta's gonna face are Democrats trying to decide early on how they gonna pick a middle of the road person. And what should be happening, this is what really should be happening. And I'm gonna quickly, a very short, 20 seconds each. I think what Democratic activists should be doing right now is applying pressure to the DSCC and Chuck Schumer and say, don't you pick our choices before the primary. I believe if Charles Booker could have beaten Amy McGrath, if they had not made her the anointed one. She barely beat Charles Booker. He would have gave Mitch McConnell a hell of a lot better race than, frankly, she did.
Absolutely.
And so I just want to get what y'all thoughts about that. Should the DSCC sit out primaries? First, you, Michael.
Yeah, I think they should sit out and let the people decide who the candidate's going to be, as opposed to trying to anoint the candidate. Definitely.
Kelly, should they sit it out, or should they put their thumb on the scale and pick a candidate who can win the primary, who they think can win the general?
I don't think that they are in touch enough to make that decision at this point, as evidenced by last election. So I do think they should sit it out. I don't think they will. But in the case that they do not sit it out, I really need them to listen to the constituents of Pennsylvania and other jurisdictions. And I also really need them to do their thorough research on each individual candidate who is running under the Democratic ticket, and not just because of some type of backroom deal in which they want a certain person in office because of X, Y, and Z. They definitely need to do their research if they are going to not sit it out. But I do believe that they should sit it out.
They should do
Rob, what do you think?
They should do the exact opposite of what they normally do. They lose a whole lot, so do the opposite of what they usually do. So they should sit out and let good candidates be good candidates, because they're not very good at picking this.
All right, folks, back to our Roland Martin Unfiltered video in just one moment.
It's time to be smart. When we control our institutions, we win. This is the most important news show on television of any racial background. Y'all put $2, $3, $4, $5, $10, $15, $20, $30 on this and keep this going. What you've done, Roland, since this crisis came out in full bloom. Anybody watching this, tell your friends. Go back and look at the last 2 weeks, especially of Roland Martin Unfiltered. I mean, hell, go back and look at the last 2 days. You've had sitting United States senators today, Klobuchar and Harris. Whatever you have you can bring to Roland Martin Unfiltered to support it, please do, because this information may literally save your life.
Watch Roland Martin Unfiltered daily at 6 p.m. Eastern on YouTube, Facebook, or Periscope, or go to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered Daily Digital Show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Our goal is to get 20,000 of our fans contributing $50 each for the whole year. You can make this possible. RolandMartinUnfiltered.com.